Hello everyone, this is Professor DeSimone-Shabrack and I'm going to be giving you an overview of the Access Workbench project that is in Chapter 1 beginning on page 31. You can see on my screen it actually says it starts on page 32, but that's because I'm using an electronic copy of the book, but in the actual textbook itself it starts on page 31. And it just kind of talks about really quickly about the different sections and how Microsoft Access is a personal database system. It's utilized usually for small databases or small businesses. Once you get into more complicated things, it's better to use some other types of databases, which we kind of talked about using XAMPP to use MySQL. But again, that's a little more advanced. We'll talk about that some more as the semester goes on. But we're creating a customer relationship management database or CRM system for the Wallingford Motors Company. So when we go here, it starts out with letting us know exactly how to get to Access, and that's very simply done by coming over here to the dialog box and typing in Access. If you have Microsoft Office loaded on your computer, it should automatically come up. If you do not have this on your computer, remember you need to be using your virtual machine, and I do have a separate tutorial for that out on the Blackboard for you. In addition to that, if you do have a PC and would like to download the Microsoft Office suite of products, you can do that very cheaply for about $30. The university has a discounted rate for you, and you can actually share that program with up to 5 different PCs. So if you have more than one computer or a family member that needs to utilize it, it's a great opportunity to save some money on the Microsoft product system. So here is Access. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and let it go ahead and open for me. And then I'm going to go to blank database because you're going to start out this project with a brand new database. And this is going to be the same for this tutorial and for the homework that you're going to be doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and name this database. And then according to the book, it's asking us to name the database WMCRM. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. WMCRM and say create. So I'd already gone ahead and started working on this yesterday as a project just to test it out to see how it worked. So it's going to ask me if I want to replace the file. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes here, but you shouldn't have that because you shouldn't have this loaded yet on your computer. So you can see here when it brings it up, WMCRM at the very top. If we're following along here, it says the same thing, database called WMCRM. Should be at the top, and it goes through the you have different options here. There's a document window. There's your objects here to the left. You've got your navigation pane, I guess they call it here. But all of your objects, your forms, your tables, anything you've created will be viewable here to the left. Let's see, what else is it saying? And then you could obviously close each one of these out. So you can close the entire database, or you can close out each window or object by clicking on the little X here. And let's see, it talks about the ribbon. This is what this is called up here with all of your different options. The status bar, so you're in data sheet view, what record we're on, so on and so forth there. So it just kind of goes through each step of where to find each thing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through each one of those, but you know, it's prudent to go through and look at whether you are fluent in this or not, whether you need to look for some quick access items. They're all available here. It's giving me some update information. Sorry about that. So customize quick access toolbar, like we said, is up here. This is great. You've got this little button that comes down, and here's all your different options. I personally like to see print preview and email and quick print, new for brand new database. So I just added a bunch of those up there by clicking on it. So now that's a quick tool for me to be able to utilize when necessary. And the save is almost automatically put up there for each one of these Office products. Again, we talked about the navigation pane, so that's here. So you shut or close. So if you wanted to remove this for bigger space to work on, you could just click these little double arrows here and it would move it over to the left a little bit for you, but it lets you know it's still there. The navigation pane is still there, and you can click on it again and it'll open it up for you. And if you're wondering how I'm quickly maneuvering these web pages, if you're not familiar, the Alt button on your keyboard and then hitting the Tab button at the same time will bring up this menu, which shows you all the different windows that you have open currently. And then keeping your finger holding down the Alt button, you can keep hitting the Tab button and it will move to different windows and you can choose which one you want to look at. So here it's just saying I recently started this particular database. If I had closed it out, like I said, it goes through step by step on how to use it completely. And I apologize if I keep clearing my throat. I just got over a cold, or I'm getting over a cold. And then here, if there was a security warning that came up that says enable content, you want to click on that because you want to make sure that any scripting that has been updated in the background runs properly. Okay, great. So now we're on page 41. Let me just double check and make sure that that's, yep, it is page 41 in your book as well. So here is the actual information that they're asking you to update. Now this is where I wanted to spend a little bit of time because this is what we're going to enter in, but this explains what the data types are. So here in figure WA1-12, you have an explanation. It's short text, is characters and numbers. You have a maximum length of 255 characters. Long text, large text, maximum of 65,000 some odd characters. And it goes through each one of them to let you know what it is that you have the ability to do. We're going to be focusing on, you can see here, short text and auto number. So auto number is a unique sequential number incremented by 1 each time. So it's going to automatically add 1 as we go through. But we're going to have to create this particular database, or I'm sorry, this particular table, excuse me, within the database, utilizing each one of these column names, the type, whether it is a primary key or not, or whether it's a required field. So we're going to do that momentarily. So if we did not have a table here, we would go and say create table. So if we go to the create ribbon, we would say create table and click table design and another table would come up. But we already have a table sitting here. So it automatically pre-fills when you open access. So instead of going to the create tab right now, we're going to just right click on the table that exists and click on design view. And this particular table, according to the project, should be called customer. Now, when you name your table, you want to make sure that you're using all capital letters to distinguish it as a table. And click OK. And you can see now it's changed the table name to customer, and it's blank for us to go ahead and enter the information in. Now remember, your primary key is going to be your unique identifier for the table. So as we saw here in the table we need to create, customer ID is an auto number and it's the primary key and it is required. So because it is an auto number, it will automatically be required. So there's nothing that we need to do down here in the field information to change. So let me show you how this works. So here's customer ID. So I'm going to say, oops, take my caps lock off, customer ID, auto number, and so you see that I put in surrogate key as a description. That really pretty much is essentially the same as saying that it's the primary key. It's the unique identifier that you would use. Okay, so it says a surrogate key is a unique identifier used in databases for a modeled entity or an object. Is a unique key whose only significance is to act as a primary identifier. Okay, so that's customer ID. You can see this field here is already highlighted to say that it is the primary key. Okay, so there's a little key in that little window right there. If it was not highlighted, you can come up here and click on the primary key button and it would put it there for you. Okay, so we're going to go through for each one of these and add in each field. So we have last name, short text. It said 25 words, or 25 characters rather, but we need to change this down here to yes, because it was a required field. The next one was first name. Now when you create each field type, you want to either make it all one word, which is usually the easiest way to do it, or you can use an underscore. Short text does not allow for spaces in the field names. Again, 25 characters, and again we want to change it required to yes. The next one is address. Okay, so you can see by magic I've completed the table. Didn't need you to watch me type in each one of those, but there you go. So I've entered in all of the different fields, the data types according to what was requested, and then the field size for each one. Okay, so now the chapter says, okay, what are we going to do next? Once we've created all of that, we did use our design tool by doing the right click. So that goes through and use the different data types. We already talked about that. Entered in all that information. So now we are on, it looks like page 47. And then we're going to save this information. So we're going to say save. So great. So now that's been saved. And it says to close this particular one out. So we're going to close customer out. So you can still see that it's over here to the left and accessible in the navigation pane, but you don't have the actual table open right now. Just as it says here on page 48. Okay, so here's some customer data that we can enter in as data in the system. So now what we did with the table is we created fields for us to enter data into. So just as if you were using Excel and you were putting a header at the very top of Excel and saying, okay, here are all the fields, or you're putting them in the column or row, whichever way you're doing them. But say you did it in the header across the top and you were putting in the data underneath it. It's the same thing here. So here's our customer information and say, okay, now I'd like to open this. Here's the actual data window now for you to be able to put in the information concerning your customer. Now you can do this in a couple different ways. So here you can see on page 48 that you can enter in last name, first name, address, city, so on and so forth with their phone and fax number listed just here using this particular table view of it. So you do have another option, which is to create a form, which we'll get into in just a moment, but we're going to go ahead and put in a couple of clients just to begin with. So here we're going to put in Griffey. Oops, if I can spell properly. Griffey, Ben. His address is 5678 25th Northeast in Seattle, Washington 98178. And he has a phone. Oops. Now this has been formatted just to accept 12 characters. It's not formatted specifically for a phone number. He doesn't have a fax number. But he does have an email address. So we did that. Now you can size these just like you can in Excel. So I just came over here to the right and extended the field for you. So there you have the information for this first client. You can see it automatically gave it a customer ID number of 1. So it's automatically generated as customer number 1. Okay, see, auto numbered that blank field. Then the new one underneath is waiting for the data to be entered. As I said, you can change the column widths, and you can close the button if you wanted to. If you needed to modify the phone number, it shows you how to do that to make a change within the database. Instead, use the tab or shift tab to move to the left. So it's saying you could go here and hit tab to go through, or shift tab to go backwards. That's what it's saying on that particular page 52 on how to get back and forth. And then it's just saying that you can go ahead and delete this and overwrite it if you needed to. But we're going to go ahead and just leave that one in there as it is. That's what page 52 says. And then let's see, if you needed to add a cell, add a row, it goes through how to do that. So that's very simple. If, say, for instance, you wanted to go here, oops, you made a mistake, you needed to add a new record, you can certainly do that. New record, delete the record, change the row height, copy and paste them. You have all those options by right-clicking here. That's essentially what page 53 says. The row entered by Jessica Christmas data is customer number 3. Because, all right, so what this is saying on page 54 is that if I went in and I put in the next client, which is Jessica Christmas, and let's go ahead and do that. Let's add her in really quickly so that I can show you how this works. Also in Seattle. It's just not, oh yeah, 206. Look at that, I just found a couple mistakes here. One is I didn't put my dashes in here, and I also used 203 area code instead of 206 because I'm from Connecticut and 203 area code is ours. Okay, and then we've got an email address of jessica.christmas. Look at that, I'm thinking it's Christmas time. Christman, but this is a good opportunity for you guys to see how you can make changes at somewhere.com. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back into this field and change it to Christman. Now, what this page is saying on page 54 is that if I said, you know what, this record is not what I want here, and I say delete record, it says, do you want to delete the record? Yes, I do. And now I re-entered her information. Look what happened to the number. It used to say number 2, now it says number 3, and that's because even though I no longer have a number 2, those numbers are never duplicated. So if I remove it, that unique identifier is no longer available now to be used. It belonged to this person, and now because she's no longer in the system or that particular data record was deleted, that number no longer exists either. So I've gone ahead and entered her back in here. And we'll do Jessica. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's now record number 3 because again, number 2 is no longer available. This can be very tedious, and certainly we don't want just anybody working with the table that we've created with all of the data. We want something that's going to be user-friendly, and that's where forms come in. Whenever you go on a website to order something, to fill out paperwork, I'm sure you've seen fillable forms before. They're just essentially fill in the blank boxes with just data headers or labels above them. So first name, last name, so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and create a form to to fill in instead of actually going through each one of these fields. And it's something that can be copied and placed on a desktop, so it can be used instead of having someone going in our database to fill out this particular table. So we're going to go to the Create tab up at the top. Tells you that here. And then on page 54, so we're going to go to Create, and we're going to go to Form Wizard. And it's going to say, okay, which table do you want to utilize the Form Wizard for? And we only have one table right now, so it's Customer. And it's saying, what fields would you like visible for this particular form for people to fill in? So since we pretty much want everything, we're going to go ahead and click the double arrow, and it moves all the available fields to the selected fields. If we didn't want everything, we could go through and individually select them and put them in this thing, but we want everything. So we're just going to go ahead and click everything and leave them there in the selected field section. You say next. So we're going to say, okay, let's leave them in the column format, no problem. And then we want it to open the form to view the information. So what title do you want for the form? Let's see, does it ask us to change that? So it just went through everything that I just did. Let's see, they want us to call it WMCRM Customer Data Form. So we're going to call it WMCRM Customer Data Form. Is that what it says? Yes, it does. And so we can say Finish. And here's our form. So it comes up and it automatically has the records that we've already created. So here's one, here's Ben Griffey. And record 2 has the auto number 3, remember, because we removed one record and then replaced it. And now we can go through and enter in all the others. So I'm going to quickly do that and just pause the recording for a moment and show you the finished product. Okay, great. So I've got the 5 records in here that are, I should say 4 records in here. So remember, we're missing one now because I deleted it. But the 4 records that are listed on page 48 that they asked us to enter. So if I hit the next button down here, it would automatically bring me to the new record, and it would auto-generate another number, as I mentioned before. But now on page 58, it's asking us to actually create now a report from the information that we've entered. So it's saying, let's go to the report wizard. So again, we're going to go up here to Create, and we're going to go to the report wizard, which is all the way over here, and click on that. And again, it's going to say, well, where do we want to pull that information from? So you can see here it says you're going to pull it from table customer, and it's going to say, you know, which fields from the available field list. And it says click the right facing single chevron button to select the highlighted field in the table, and clicked the next button. So the information that it's asking us to select are last name, first name, phone, fax, and email address. It's not asking us to collect everything like it did before, because remember last time we did this button, the double arrow, and we selected everything. But it's saying, no, let's only take these items. Let's see, last name, first name, phone, fax, and email are the only items that it's asking us to do this time. So then we're going to click the next button. So those are the only fields that are going to come up, and it says, okay, how do you want to order those? So we've got that. So last name, first name looks like that stays the same. Saying last name, first name, phone, fax, email. That's the way we want it. So then we're going to say next. And then it says, how do you want us to sort it? Ascending by last name, it looks like it's telling us to do. So we do it by last name. It doesn't ask us to sort any other way, but you can certainly do so if you wanted to. It says hit next. And according to this, we're just going to finish. And here's our neat little report. Now here's the issue. The phone and the fax number are cut off. So let's see if it tells us what to do there. So I guess it doesn't show us here what to do there, but I will show you what to do. not a problem. We can change the to landscape mode. So we can actually go here to the layout view, and it will bring up this window, and you can change the width of each one of these. So I did that, So now you can actually see everything on one report. So again, I went to layout view and then just adjusted the size of the fields. Okay. So just close that out, and now I can look at my report. And there's my report. Nice and pretty, easy to use. It tells you what date it actually printed or was generated so that you know when the last update was of that. So that is pretty much how to utilize these three options: creating a table, creating a form, and creating a simple report for this particular Access Workbench project. It is going to be the same pretty much for what you're going to do here on starting on page 65. So it does go through and talks about all the different key terms again, which again was all found in this project I just did with you. And then it goes through and asks you to create a WP employee table for a database called WP. And you're going to create all of your fields here that are listed with the type of field. This one's your primary key, and whether they are required. So make sure you're paying attention to all of those. And then this is the data that you're going to enter into it. Now it tells you to please create the WP Microsoft Access file, and then says to create the WP employee table. And then it says from there, they want you to create an employee. I'm sorry, it says to create the employee table, and then it's going to go through and ask you to create a report and a form. So if there's any questions with that, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to walk you through it. Hopefully that helps. Thanks so much, and see you in class on Friday.